Hey, what is up, y'all? Before we get this show started, I hope you can take some time and help me wish my baby girl, Devea, a happy 4th birthday. I just wanted to dedicate this show to you, Devea, and just know that mommy loves you and I am doing my very best. Woo! What is up, y'all? The Hood Talks podcast. We are back live with another great panel for another needed conversation. I am super excited, y'all. Super excited to kick this show off. But you know how we do. Before we do that, I'm going to need y'all again to help me wish my baby girl a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Devaya. Woo! Yes, honey. And I want y'all to share this live, okay? Because when I say this conversation, is a good one. This is going to be another great conversation, y'all. And we need it. We need this. So make sure y'all go ahead, share this live, and let's get this show kicked off. Hey, it gets me every time. Hey, right, come on, right? I know, right? It gets me every time. I'm just like, hey, okay. Hey, so we here for another dope conversation with a great panel, y'all. Look at all these great faces here with me today. Ooh, I'm ready, y'all. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for this because I am trying to be this. I'm trying to be a new era of a parent. And it's a struggle for me. But okay, I'm gonna get some tips. I got my pen. I'm about to write some stuff down because I'm here to learn with the rest of us who's viewing.
Right.
Make sure y'all share this live, okay? So this is how we finna do it, okay? I'm gonna let these great guests introduce themselves, and then once we do that, we're gonna kick off the conversation. And Miss Kimberly, I see you're already off mute, so come on, sis, go and introduce to the people.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Kimberly, of course, and I'm a mother of 7,
Ooh,
and I am working from home right now. I have an event space, and I also help my husband run a transportation company. And on the side, I'm just on this journey of life and taking care of my lovely kids and just, being grateful every day.
yes, I understand that. All right.
Yes, blessed. Thanking God every day.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you for joining us on this needed conversation.
Thank you.
Come on, Miss Adrian and Antoine. Please tell the folks who you are.
Hello, everybody. How are you? And we are the Blakemores. I am Adrian Blakemore. This is Antoine Blakemore. We are the owners of ABC Educational Consulting LLC. With this company, we provide janitorial services. We also provide life coaching services, educational curriculum, and I am also a doula as well, like our favorite host here, Vanna.
Yeah.
We are millennial parents in here. We have 2 children, ages 4 and 2. So we are new to this parenting thing, but we're going to try this a different way, kind of use what we've learned in our traditional of what we were brought up as when we were brought up, and taking those tools that we've learned and to apply them to what we're doing within our household.
And also, just to kind of add to that, we definitely have the hands into the community. Adrian, working diligently on Northside St. Louis with me. In my spare time, I train high school athletes. Every athlete that I've trained has successfully earned a full ride scholarship. We also flip houses as well. So that's something that's kind of a badge of honor that we kind of wear, and we definitely love to talk about. So
Yes, out here grinding together. Okay, black love. Yes, y'all better shine through because y'all know I'm all
Yes.
about the black love, baby. Okay. Yes. So
Yes.
thank you guys for joining us. Okay, Miss Jasmine, come on, honey. Tell the folks who you are.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Marshall. First and foremost, I am the guardian, not quite an adoptive parent, but not no longer a foster parent of a beautiful 7-year-old little boy that has special needs. I'm doing this solo with a great support system, but that is my number one goal. Outside of that, I'm a full-time professor at St. Louis Community College, and I work in the early childhood department. So I'm training the people that are out here to work best with our youngest children. In addition to that, I run a company, a consulting company called I Encourage Early Ed Professionals, and recently started a support group called the Courage Collective to work with parents who are struggling to deal with their children who are newly diagnosed with special needs. Um, my passion is working with children and families of all walks of life. So when a colleague shared, they shared the podcast with me a long time ago, but shared this topic with me last weekend, I was so eager. I said, I don't care what else is going on. The schedule is clear for 12 o'clock and everybody out of this house, so I can have a peace of mind. So I'm excited to be a part of this and share my perspective from both being an educator and also being a parent, because the two don't always align.
That
So
part.
thank you for having me.
My head go off to all the educators because baby, I can't do it. All right, yes. Sis, no, she cannot do that one. All right. So I appreciate all of y'all. I love all of y'all from a distance. Come on, Miss Jacqueline. Thank you for all you doing too, Jasmine. Shout out to all of that, especially the special needs. That is one thing that I do want to touch and hopefully touch on in the next season. Okay, so I might be coming back for you, sis.
Okay.
Jacqueline, come on, honey. Tell the folks who you are.
Okay, I'm Jacqueline. I am the mother of two. I was about to call them ferocious, but that's how they are. Girls. They are 7 and 4. That's just the best way, the best way to describe them at this moment in life. And I'm also in the education world. I also have a publishing company, editing company called CNE Reflections Inc. We're launching a literacy pilot soon. So I'm really excited about that. But just like Jasmine said, the education world and parent world do not mix all the time. It's a curveball for sure.
Yes, yes. Come on, Miss Jenny. Come on, tell the folks who you are.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Davis. I work for Ferguson Florissant Parents as Teachers program. So all the kiddos under 5, under kindergarten entry, get the program. Is free of charge, and we just help with the coaching. We teach the positive parenting and help like prevent child abuse and neglect, and also educate the parents on how to deal with those ferocious little ones. And I have 2 kids of my own, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, boys.
Ooh, baby, them star steppers is real. But shout out to you, my fellow Ferguson residents. Okay, we got some elections coming up. I'm gonna be hollering at you real soon because we got to get some folks out of here. But that's a different topic. And another day, we are talking about a new era of parents, y'all. Yes, conscious parenting. Ooh, we heard this a lot. We heard conscious a lot, right? That word conscious, we hear that all the time. But I want to start off by, what is conscious parenting? What does this mean? What is this? What is this thing? What is this new thing? Somebody come on and chime in for me. What is conscious parenting? Don't be shy.
I think that
Okay.
conscious parenting is just having the mindset of always being aware of who you are as a parent, always being aware of your engagement of your children, your influence, the village and the proper influences that you have for your kids, kind of all the time. That's something that Adrian and I, we harp on and we kind of stick to it. Some of our friends or even surprised that we don't allow our kids to take into just every single thing. Just being conscious about that. So, in my opinion, just being conscious, about every aspect as you possibly can, as far as you do. with your children and you as a parent, growth and all. So
I seen you come off of mute, Jacqueline. You want to get in on that? What is conscious parenting to you?
It's piggybacking off of what Adrian said, or Antoine said, I'm sorry, but it's being self-aware of your past like raising and your triggers and controlling your emotions while they're actually learning how to process different situations, how to control their emotions, how to just navigate, and having that consciousness like about everything, the books, the shows, everything, having that under wraps.
Again, I can do nothing but agree with everyone who's already spoken. But for me, it's forced me to be more reflective of things that I've done. So not just acting, but also when the act happens or however I respond, taking the time to be reflective, taking the time also to give myself a little bit of grace. We've had like so much that's happened here over the past few years. And sometimes I don't know about you guys, I'm gonna speak for self, but I'm just trying to keep my head above water. So saying to myself, you know what, I didn't read this book, or he stayed on this tablet for hours, and that's okay today. And I'm gonna try again tomorrow. But also remembering that for me, the biggest thing is making sure that I raise a conscious adult. I want him to be a conscious person. So encouraging him to be reflective too about some of the things that he does or how he responds to situations. So us both practicing reflection, me and my son.
One thing that I appreciate from what you said, and I got you, Kimberly, is the grace part. Because when I did start this episode, I didn't want people to feel attacked because maybe they didn't know, wasn't aware, or they were aware and they just chose to do a different parenting style. Because we're not saying, and I tell friends this all the time, I'll be like, does this stuff really work? Because in a sense, we have not yet seen what it could do. You know what I mean? We haven't really had the full scope of generation after generation. Like when my kids get 20, then I can reflect and be like, oh, okay, it did work. So I can say to them, I did this for you and this kind of worked. But I just think as parents, one thing is the main focus is getting yourself grace, because there is no handbook to parenting at all, right? Come on, Kimberly. I saw that you had.
You know what? That's exactly what I was about to say, what you ended with about not having a manual as being a parent, because a lot of people believe that, okay, once you have a child, it's a natural thing to know how to parent, when it's actually really not, because a lot of parents don't realize that how we was brought up, our parents wasn't really like conscious and aware of what they were doing. A lot of things they were going through in the past, they were projecting it out on us, and they wasn't realizing what they were doing. And at the same time, it was causing pain and hurting us and causing us to withhold our true selves and keeping us from being our, like, expressing ourselves. And they wasn't understanding that we were like, okay, we're kids, we don't know what we're doing, but you don't have to whoop us, so you don't have to yell at us to make us understand, what are you feeling. Like, some parents, they need to learn how to dive inside of them and heal themselves and realize what their pain and their day-to-day experience can, project on their children.
That part, heal.
It's something that you said about how parents are raising, how our parents raised us, and how they didn't have a book, or we've seen all these books, right? What to do when you're pregnant, 9 months to expecting, before you're expecting. And I don't know about you guys, you ladies, I didn't read those books. I didn't. I didn't. I don't know about the listeners. I didn't read those books. And so, like you said, the parenting doesn't come with a manual. It's like when you're in school, and as an educator, you go and you take these courses, and they're teaching you these things about what to expect when you're in the classroom. And then you get in the classroom and you like, whoa, this is not in the book. It's not in the book. When you're a parent and you have that baby and you bring that baby home. I don't know about you ladies, but when first brought our daughter home, she was not like the way she was when she was in the hospital. She was very chill in the hospital. When we brought her home, she didn't sleep. Who is this baby that we brought? So learning how to pivot that and learning how to parent and to have those conversations. Jacqueline, you said using those past triggers that maybe our parents experienced when they were growing up and kind of like passing that along, or what their parents may have experienced, and they're just passing these things along. We want to be the change that we see in parenting, and that's the biggest thing. And Jasmine, as a like you said, as a parent of a special needs child, it's different. Like, and that's a day-to-day different type of thing. As an educator, you see different things all the time where you got different triggers, different things that's going on. What your child did yesterday was not what they did today. So just learning your child in general, like being able to have and give yourself that grace that, like, hey, I'm learning who I am with my child and giving my child enough grace to learn who I am as a parent as well.
And Kim, I want to say thanks for bringing that up, because I think I didn't really realize until I got older that the generational difference between my dad and me, or my mom and me, it was so different to the point where, it would cause, friction from time to time. It's like, yo, I don't view it like that. And sometimes it would lead to, certain circumstances being uncomfortable, but with being able to have just a conversation like, hey, it's not an attack. It doesn't mean that you're the lesser as a parent, you did a bad job. It's just that on this certain situation, I view things slightly different, and that's okay. We can still move on with building a relationship. So yeah, I didn't really realize, the difference of the generations and the experiences that they went through, being a teen in the 80s, or you growing up in the late 70s versus, me growing up in the 2000s and having my own views and things like that. So, that was something that I had to kind of conclude to when, as an adult, had to go through that. So yeah, I definitely resonated with me, Kim.
And I just want to say one thing you don't know until you become a parent, right? You just don't know. You don't get it until you become that parent. And I think what Antoine just said, shout out to you first of all, Antoine, because you're a Black man coming onto this space talking about conscious parenting. Shout out to you, okay? I was super excited. I was like, yes, we get a Black man. Yes, because we need y'all in these spaces to have these conversations, because y'all are just as much as important all the way around than it with us Black women, okay? But shoot, kudos to you. But I just want to say though, I think you don't really know the dynamics of parenthood until you become a parent. And let me tell you something. I've seen so many. I'm gonna be the first to admit it. Before I became one, I was telling and seeing so many things like, and if I was a mama, I wouldn't be doing that. And if I was a mama, I wouldn't do that. How you doing that? I can't believe y'all doing that. What they do? And now I'm like, shut up, girl. Shut up. What? You didn't even know the logistics of parenthood, because and then just before you have all of these great ideas of how you're going to parent. I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna do that. And when that child comes, you find out it's no longer about you. And I think for me, it's for conscious parenting. For me, I'm trying to get that it's not about me. I am here literally to try to, how do I want to say it? Guide my child through their life, not run their life. Like you're not. I'm not here to tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna want to do what you want to do, and I'm hoping to help inspire you and get you to those places where you want to be. I'm not the leader. I'm just, sometimes I feel like I'm really the follower. But help me in on this conversation, y'all, because I would just, how do y'all feel about that? Like, I think in our day and age, we were shut up, do as I say, not as I do, right? And I am trying to really literally be like, see what mommy doing, like do as mommy do. don't just do it because I told you to do it, but I'm trying to lead by example in a sense. How do y'all feel about that?
And just piggybacking off of the whole thing, where as far as teaching and then having your own kids, it's so different, so different. Because the main thing for me is I'm not getting any sleep now. I was getting full night's sleep when I was teaching preschoolers, and I was coming up with all these fancy lesson plans and doing all these exciting things, running back and forth with the kids. I'm not getting any sleep right now. I have a 14-month-old that's nursing all night. I'm not getting any sleep, and that makes a difference for sure. And then my 2-year-old is nighttime potty training himself, which I was not ready for. And he's like, I have to pee. I'm like, go back to sleep. You're wearing a diaper. So it's just like that whole sleep thing is just really unfamiliar for me. And that was like shell shock when I first became a parent, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many changes that are things that you don't think about when you're not a parent. Like you take for granted. I'll be like, I take going to the bathroom by myself for granted. I took that for granted. I saw you was going to say something, Antoine. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say it's funny you brought that up about not sort of forcing a particular thought on your child, but allowing them to grow. And I just recently read a book about that, about certain circumstances being child developmental oriented. Allowing the child to kind of express the direction of the route that they want to go. And I didn't catch it until I read it. It's a book that I read some month ago. It's called The Developmental of the Psychology of the Black Child by Amos Wilson. So kind of reading that, I didn't realize how much I would, hey, no, we're gonna do it this way. And then once I kind of caught it, I was like, well, okay, well, how you want to do it? And my son is very much like his father. He will yell his point across if he needs to. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. And I'm like, who you yelling at? And before I catch myself, I'm like, okay, well, slow down. What would you like to do? Communicate that to me. You know what I'm saying? And he can express it. He can tell me how and what he wants to do, the structure and the route he wants to go, and I'll be like, okay, that's fine. And I'm kind of growing into that, and I like it. It's working.
Giving children the full autonomy to express themselves. We allow kids themselves to express in school, like with through their artwork, right? But what about when they come home? Like you said before, we were always taught to do as I say, not as I do. You're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, and that's it, that's all. But giving children full autonomy to be like, okay, well, I kind of want to do it this way, or I'm seeing it this way, looking at it from their perspective. Um, Allowing them to be emotionally intelligent because they have feelings and they feel a certain way, so giving them the opportunity to say when they're angry, when they're sad, when they're happy. Like you want to raise children so that when they go out in this world and we're not there, that they're able to communicate that. And I feel we as parents, not that saying that we all came from like these horrible upbringings, we just were not allowed to say how we felt in the household. I can give a perfect example that when my mom came to visit, and she saw my son actually having a conversation with my husband about how he was feeling about a certain way, she was taken aback. Like, y'all allowing this? Yes. Like it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to allow someone to a conversation, no matter what age they are. You want to teach them these things so that when they get out in the world, they're able to have communication skills. They're able to tell when they're feeling some kind of way, so that when they go out here, they're not these adults that don't know how to communicate.
Shut down.
Yes.
Yes, I'm so happy she mentioned it. Yes, right.
Look, if we can end, we don't end on this note right here. Look, that's it. We don't need no more show because that is it. That is a gem, and I think that is what's happening in the Black community a lot. Especially, come on, y'all. Now we finna get real, and Antoine, you here for this, okay? Because
Let's get real.
We finna get real. Black men cannot express themselves because we've told them to be man up. Don't say nothing. You can't cry.
Can't cry. Yeah. No, don't tell. My biggest thing is don't tell my son not to cry. Don't tell my son how to feel. When he's hurt, he's hurt. Allow him that. He's a boy. I don't like to hear when men say, he's a boy. He can cry too. Yes. That's why you can't cry.
That's why you mad and frustrated and ready to pop off and shoot any and everything because you can't express your emotions.
Yes.
I definitely,
you said,
I definitely think that with Black men, being pervasive with emotional intelligence and emotional growth is something that needs to be, talked about more. when I train, my youth, my young adults, I always tell them to, be in the moment of being conscious of the decisions, the people you're around, and what's going on. If you are angry, understand why that's going on. If you are unhappy, it's okay to, say that, but also understand the value of communication with that as well. To be angry doesn't always have to come off like an attitude or just, yo, what it is, what we have to do. Like you pulling yours, I'm pulling mine. Like it doesn't have to escalate to that. Seeing value in just communication, even if you guys still disagree, that's okay. It doesn't have to lead to that. It doesn't have to escalate further on. Just like, hey, the world is big enough. Like you see it this way, you see it that way, I see it this way, and we can separate and go our separate ways, and that's just fine. That's fine.
Yes, that part. That part. Come on, Jasmine.
You guys said a word, autonomous, and a lot of times we say it, but we don't allow for children to truly live it, to truly have an opportunity to be independent, except when it comes to expressing their feelings. And a lot of times we were raised to just say you're sorry. I don't know about you guys, but I had a sibling and I wasn't always sorry. I did what I did and that was it. But we force children to say that they're sorry when in actuality, we want to help them to understand that emotional intelligence and say, wait a minute, I hurt this person. Look at how that you made them feel. Their body is hurt. And then how do we fix it? So we need to try to encourage them to be more empathetic around what someone is dealing with. So they're hurt because you bit them or you scratched them or whatever. Let's fix it versus just this blanket, I'm sorry, and leaving it to them not to have the space to do that. As a boy mom, a lot of times I find myself saying, okay, in the world, you're not going to have a voice of when it comes to your feelings. So forcing it. Tell me how you feel. Well, he was using frustrated at 2 or 3. People like, does he really understand? Yes, he does. He's frustrated. He's not mad. He's not sad. He's just frustrated with the situation. And I want you guys to hear him when he says it. And then let's figure out collectively how to fix it, how to help him get beyond it. And when we don't allow that, that's when impulsive behavior runs rampant. When we don't allow a child to have an opportunity to say, this ain't right to me. Or we don't allow them a voice and we don't respond to them effectively when things are going well. And when it goes wrong, we're responding to the negative. So that's what I think we have to focus more on, is giving them more of that time and attention when things go right.
You said a lot. I can't even I couldn't even chop some because that was a lot. It was a lot. And one thing I guess I'm gonna have to touch on because it was so many things that you said. But one thing, the voice, right? Talking about giving our kids voices, our children voices at home, and then having to go outside, and then they don't have that. I had a conversation recently with someone, and I was telling her that I feel like there's privilege in conscious parenting because when you can do it at home, when you're sending your kids out here into the space that we have racism bias, they're not going to be able to do what we're telling them to do. So how do we address that narrative? Because that's my nervousness. Okay, I have a daughter. Whoo, baby, talking about parenting yourself. I am definitely doing that. When I say stubborn, and don't care what she say. That is my child. I swear to God. But I'm freeing her the space to do that here. But when we go outside, I'm trying to figure out how to manage that because I know what she's up against in this world. How do we come on? What's the tips on that, y'all? How can we address that?
I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna say I am big on communication. So wherever they are at, granny, pawpaw, school, whatever, this is how we're raising her. This is what she's allowed to do. And I'm everything. Like I sent a 2-page cheat sheet. Like, hey, if she's frustrated, she may tell you, I'm upset, I need some space. So don't take offense to that because she's telling you, I'm upset, I need some space. And us as, I can speak for me, I wasn't allowed to do that as a kid. I wasn't massively abused or anything, but having that voice and that, hey, I just need some time to process, or I'm angry or whatever, I wasn't allowed that. And I see in the education world, the difference of the kids that are allowed to be their own self and find their own self and voice their opinion and the ones that aren't. That's where you do get that impulsivity. So one of the things I've been saying, I know since she could talk, is if you are not calm, you cannot think. And if you cannot think, you cannot lead. And she would, and I mean, I had a screamer. She wouldn't whine, she would scream. And I'm like, well, what do you need? You have words, you can talk. Tell me what you need. And she can verbally tell you everything that she needs. So us as adults have to hold that space for them to get that out, or either show us what they need. Where my oldest is very verbal, my second is coming around, but if she's in a mood, she's in a mood, and she's not going to talk to you until she's ready to talk to you. And if she does not like you, she will not talk to you. She will go a year without talking to you, and you'll be like, can she talk? And I'm like, no, she can talk very well. She just don't want to talk to you. And when she does talk, she's going to let you know, don't touch me. I don't like that. And it takes people aback when they hear little Black kids voice their opinion. And we just have to really communicate that. Where I'm in parent-teacher conference, and the teacher was like, yeah, well, she had a moment and was falling out. And I said, well, what triggered it? Because every behavior comes from a need not being met or something triggering it. So what triggered it? And she's like, oh, well, we had to go outside and she wouldn't let I didn't let her get her scarf. And I'm like, well, if I send her to school with a scarf, she knows she's supposed to come outside with that scarf and she's supposed to come home with it. So she should be upset that you weren't listening to her telling you she needs her scarf. So that's not her problem. That's the adult problem.
Ooh.
And her teacher was like, oh. And she was like, oh, well, yeah, I said, she can verbalize everything she needs. So if you ever have an issue, are you listening to what she's telling you? These kids are a totally different breed, where my youngest, I could be like, hey, just randomly be like, hey, daughter, I love you. And she'd be like, I just like you right now. You got to pull ego out of that. And I was like, okay. And like, I was like, all right. And she's like, I love you tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. I don't even know how to process it, but all right, I feel you. Maybe I made you mad at snack time. I don't know. But allowing her to have
related.
that.
You say you and her, y'all related?
Y'all, she be saying some stuff, and I be like, oh, all right.
I mean,
but you have to give them space, where sometimes, she don't want to talk and she'll be falling out, and I just sit. It was a white man and his son was just tantruming. He just sat there on the floor and let him fall out for about 15, 20 minutes. And sometimes that's me. Sometimes I'm like, all right, well, you let me know when you're ready. And I hate this. I hate the wall. I hate wall. And I'll be like, all right, just let me know when you're ready. And then she'll calm down and be like, I couldn't get my shoe on right. And I'm like, okay, well, let me help you. But you got to let them process that, so then they can know, oh, I don't have to kick the wall. I can just say, hey, I need help. There's an order in the way kids process things that we have to teach them, because they don't automatically know, like us as adults.
Gems. And one thing I wanted to uplift is that you're saying, and that not only should the parent, we, the outside folks, people who are around children, period, we need to make this a norm of allowing, if you see somebody in the grocery store and their child is having a fit, keep going. Ignore. Let that lady, let that parent, let that father, whoever it is, do what they're doing, because overall, they're probably doing what you're doing, letting them process and getting their stuff out. It's too many times that I've heard, or I felt some type of way because I am like letting DeVale just have a fit, and people looking at me all crazy, like she ain't finna whip her, or she ain't finna do nothing, and I'm just like, I cry sometimes. Sometimes I throw a fit. I'm still learning how to process my own feelings. Okay, so why can't we allow the child the space to do that? Why is
giving
it
that
normal? Go ahead, Jasmine.
give that parent a pat on the back, because there's so many people in the grocery store looking at them like, what you gonna do? But in actuality, they don't understand what their children need, so they're taking the time to allow them to have that moment, and they're being judged by people in their own house and families and everybody else in the store. And sometimes they need someone to say, you're doing the best you can. And that's it. Because as a parent of a child with major behavior issues, I'm that parent. I'm the one that's in that store where people are looking at me and I'm just like, good day. You know.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Jasmine.
Yes.
I think with that experience for me, like it came with, being able to see it up close in person and to learn not to judge. Because before I had kids, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And my son and my nephew are in close age, and my nephew has autism. So sometimes he actually has, times where he just goes out the hinge. And now I'm just looking like, okay, well, that's my nephew. I just know. And so when I see someone in the store, when I see a child that maybe doing something that I even may disagree with, but at the same time, I say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the situation. I don't know the connection. I don't know what's going through with that child. You know what? I'm just keep it moving. If I can help in any way, I will, but I won't judge. I'll just keep it moving.
I think sometimes people forget, like, we were kids once, right? And I think as adults we're just people like, oh, we got this all together. No, you don't. You have fits and you an adult. So why do you think a kid is supposed to be this perfect individual who's going through all these different emotions and all these different feelings and all these body changes and supposed to have it together, when the adult yourself don't have it all together?
Yeah,
because she lost the remote last night. I'm still pissed about it.
I was trying to go to my professor for something in college, and I was pregnant with my oldest, and I'm trying to express myself, and she dismissed me. So her dismissing me, I went to another professor to try to talk about it, and then her not knowing, like, I wasn't using names, her not knowing what exactly the issue was or which professor kind of hurt my feelings, she called that same professor into the room. So then I had a complete meltdown. And the professor that dismissed me was like, you're being rude. You need to stop crying and talk to me. And I'm just like, I'm like 8 months pregnant. Can you just give me some space? Like, I need space. You didn't have time for me a minute ago. I just need space. And it was just interesting, like, how all of that played out. And it's just like, I have feelings and emotions that I need to process. I'm not being rude. So the whole thing with conscious parenting is really taking your ego out of it and making sure you're aware of your triggers, like we talked about before. And I know my biggest trigger is being tired. And if I have a headache, then I'm just like short attention span. And I like low patience level rather. And then it's just like, I need a minute. Mommy needs a minute. I'm going to go, in the room and relax. I need a minute. So just being aware of that and teaching your kids. Like, I have the 2 boys, and sometimes my oldest is like, I need a minute, Joshua. I don't want to play right now. And he'll go in his room and shut the door. And I'm like, on one part of me, it's like, but your brother is crying now because he wants to play with you. But it's also like, okay, let me just distract the baby because he needs a minute, and I have to respect that.
Respecting their boundaries, because kids are developing boundaries also, right? And again, it goes back to leading by example, as the comment says. Right, you said when you felt like you were like at your ends, hey, I need a minute. Let me go over here. And now he's like, oh, mommies need a minute. Now I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I'm frustrated. I need a minute. Get away. I need a minute. So I agree. I think that goes back to show that they definitely see us, and they do, and they do as we do. They do as we do. And so I think that's why you get those videos sometimes where you have the kids cursing and stuff like that. And now don't get me wrong, y'all, I am a cursor. I'm trying to do better. But even when I was a cursor and the van was cursing, I did say, oh, you can't say that. And now when I say it, guess what she says to me? You can't say that, mommy. And I be like, right, Deville? You are exactly right. Mommy can't say that. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be saying that. So it's like, I give her the respect just like I would want her to give me the respect. I treat her just like, I would want to be treated in some sense. But I think what I want to go back to is what Jenny said, is sometimes we're tired. Let's be real, right? Everybody don't have, the support systems. Because shout out to Jasmine, I heard you say you had a great support system. Kimberly, and I know Adrian and Antoine, y'all coupled up. So sometimes, and I know Jenny got a great husband, so I know sometimes we don't have that support, right? Some parents are out here literally doing it alone, right? They're struggling. They're just trying to survive. So sometimes they ain't even got the patience to say, I got a minute, because that minute has been long overdue. They're coming home from work that's done stressed them out, trying to take care of children by themselves, homework, cooking and cleaning and all these things, and they don't have no support. How can the community show up in these spaces? Because now it's outside of an individual. How can we now, the community, show up?
This is where you actually tap into your community. There are tons of resources that are available, such as like the Boys and Girls Club. They have resources for after school programs. There's the Parents as Teachers program that is there to provide support for people who are 0 to 5. We have to help our community understand what's available to them, and giving them the autonomy to be like, it's okay. See, that's the other part of it. Like, we have these resources, but I feel like sometimes we don't feel like we should go. Like, my mama didn't go to that. Why do I gotta go? I'm okay. Like, but you're not okay. Just because you're telling us you're okay, you're not okay, sis. You don't have somebody helping you. Let somebody help you. Like, it's okay to accept help in this moment. Like, there are tons of resources that are available to provide you with respite care, or just give you like your little 2-hour break, or something that is needed for you. Wanting to receive that help is the biggest part.
That
I want to ask you guys a question, because it's Abana, I believe it's tied to the question you just asked. Like, how does one, like you say, Jeannie said she was tired and she needed a minute. What does their process look like, in the home? Like, what are some of the things you can do to say, okay, well, I need a minute. I'm going to maybe do this for my son, do this for my daughter, to allow them to stay busy. Right? Like, what's their process like? You know what I mean? Like, a genuine question. Like, what's their process like for y'all?
I literally set a timer. My son is really big on timers, like when it's the end of screen time, like we have a bedtime timer. So like we use the Google Home. So I would literally say, I need 5 minutes or whatever. And I'll set a timer. So it's kind of like, okay, the timer goes off. I take a breath, and then I'm back at it. But this book I wanted to share with you guys, it's called What to Do When You Feel Like Hitting. And it's really beneficial for me too. It just talks through, like, you can go to a calm down area. Then it talks through it in toddler friendly language. So it's introducing those topics. It talks about opening and closing your fist. It has some sign language in here, which we did teach both of my sons signs, like more and help and different things like that, to help them express themselves if they are nonverbal or younger. And then just knowing like because hitting wasn't ever like my oldest problem, but I can substitute those things for yelling for me, or for him, and just making sure it's just a coping mechanism. So when you're having those big feelings, you can share the book, or when things are calm, you can give them those tools, because when you're stressed and you can't really think. But if you have those tools in your back pocket, then you can pull them out.
Or even allowing your child to create social stories. So social stories are super big. So what you can do with those is that's something that you can print off, and you can do that as an activity together, so that if they have an issue with hitting, or if they have an issue with being upset, hey, go get your social story. Let's read it. That's something that we can create together as a home activity, but go through that together.
Wait a minute, is that what you do?
Mm-hmm.
So when you go and I'm by myself, what you?
I know.
Actually,
I'm gonna let Kimberly go.
I actually started teaching my children how to meditate. So usually on the weekends in the morning, we'll get up and we'll meditate for a good 5 minutes, and I ask them how they feel and things like that, and it kind of brings a peaceful and calmness to us, and it seems like it helps them with getting along with each other early months the day. But sometimes later on, they'll get into things, and usually when I want time to myself, I would I would honestly just tell them, can mommy have like some time to herself? I close my door, and usually, they'll go to their room, because my kids, they love to be in my room under me. Like I have adults and I have teenagers and I got toddlers. So I have like all groups. So it's like I see the big difference in my older children, because I wasn't really aware of conscious parenting when I had them, my two oldest. And I really see how my parenting style then had affected them as as young adults, versus my teenage daughter, and I see a big difference. But other than that, it's like, it has made me a better parent. So I'm just so happy that I learned this, and I feel like that's why they help the community itself, because it all helps us grow and help us become better people. And you won't be so afraid of letting other people help you raise your child, because I feel like, as they used to say in the back, back in the day, it takes a village to raise a child. I really believe in that.
Yes.
And a lot of people are so against it, I believe, because of probably how they parent. They whoop their kids.
That part.
They yell at their kids. They don't get a full understanding and get eye to eye level with them. So, they don't want other people to do it to their child, but it's okay for them to do it. Like, make it make sense.
Woo, that right there is a mouthful. Because that is one of my things. Like, I talk about having a village and talking about wanting a village, but at the same time, and getting help. But like you said, I don't want to put my children in a certain circumstance where I know they're going to get they're going to get experienced traumatic. Like, this is what it is. You know what I mean? Because again, like at my house, they have the freedom literally to tear it up. It feels like it's teared up every day. But at someone else's house, I know their children are sitting down, they house clean, they nice, they like it to be this way and that way. Like my kids, and I know this is not like everybody like her kids jumping on couches, but whatever. So they have fun. But I know they can't do that everywhere. And so just trying to distinguish the difference for them is like, and then I just want my kids home to be their safe space. Do you hear me? Like outside these walls, you have enough to fight. Okay. Like come home, take your everything off and just be your safe space, because we're fighting enough outside. I don't want to fight in the home. So I just know everybody ain't that type of person. So I can't just I don't feel comfortable sending them any and everywhere, because they're not going to get the same reaction. It's just what it is. And I'm with you, Kimberly. I feel like that's why we're so selfish about in that space of not letting everybody tend to our children, because everyone is about this space of consciousness.
I have two things I want to say. One, going back to what we talked when you guys talked about having the social stories and having those expectations. My son has a processing delay. So things that come easy for some children don't always come easy for him. But I went on Amazon, and because I feel like I know that there's an importance in giving a child a visual to like help them to remember something. So we use like these little magnets. The box is actually right here. It's just a box full of little magnets of things that he can do. So when he says, well, I'm done with my breakfast, what do I do next? I say, well, go look at the pictures, because they're all in the refrigerator. After breakfast, you put your clothes on.
You should show it again.
Oh, yes.
So people can really see. Put it up a little more.
There we go.
There it goes.
They're like visual aids. Yeah.
They're visual aids. It's a magnetic set, and it has everything you ever want to think of in this box. They're over 300 little magnets, everything, shoes, walk to school, put your coat on, close the car door. I mean, everything. So it has really, really helped. Just the morning routine, just to kind of give him that visual reminder of things that this should come very easy for some children, but don't for all. So in addition to that, you guys were just talking about the importance of making sure the community around you understands how you want to parent your child. We were going to therapy, and I could not, for the life of me, get my mother on board around like we had boundaries and we couldn't do this. These grandparents are different. They don't have none. They can't say no. They can't do none of these things. So I need you to walk with me, mom and dad, right? If I set a rule here, that rule kind of should stand at your house too. So yes, that's my support because I'm a single foster parent, but at the same time, it's like, whoa, I gotta reprogram you from coming from granny's house. Like you don't think that that's your reality. But one thing I learned is that there are groups for our parents too. Learning how to parent the new era children or new era grandchildren. So there are things out there, there's support groups. My therapist or his play therapist actually said, why don't you bring them with you? I'm like, I can do that. I didn't realize that was a thing.
That's
I didn't
good.
realize that 30 minutes that I get with you, I can bring them in too, and then they can hear it because sometimes it don't work when it comes from you. I'm a professional, and he still ain't registered because we're still their children. So knowing that sometimes we have to bring our whole community into the circle when it's time to parent our children to say, okay, this is what's going to work for our family.
Agreed.
Yes, and I definitely have a parent educator that comes to our house to teach my husband because he won't listen to me.
They
Look, same.
They
Look, these grandparents, they something else. And it took him a while to kind of get on board as well with what I was trying to do with our children. Now he got the game and he's running. But like you said, Jasmine, these grandparents, I can remember for my grandmother. Love her dearly. I know for a fact my mom and them told them we could not have certain things. But Granny, they made sure it was a shopping bag full of bag of chips up under the sink that we could go and grab, and a pop in the refrigerator to go and grab, knowing that my mom and them said no. So now that I have kids and my children don't drink pop, that when we come to Chicago to visit, my granny will say, well, can they have a piece of pop? No, granny, they can't have a piece of pop. Like, it's okay. No, it's not okay. So, but how do you teach? So my granny will be 90 this year. She been this way my whole life. How you gonna teach her to tell her great grandkids no? I'm sure
know, right?
She's gonna, you know what? It is what it is. But allowing, you know what? It's okay.
I was just about to say sometimes
It's okay.
I had to for my
Choose your
sake,
battles.
right, choose your battles because sometimes like at my sister's house they turned up. You heard me, they be turned at my sister's house. Shout out to my sister. And I'll be like, that's their fun spot. I'm not gonna like deny them that. Like they go over there because at my house we listen to Coca Melon, blah 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 all day, every day. Over there they get some radio play, and I'll be like, Lord Jesus. But hey, it is what it is. I'm gonna let you have that space. But also when you come home, you just know what it is over here. So I think it is like you gotta sometimes pick your battles. And it ain't like it's horrific if they have it once in a while, right? Because they're gonna find it somewhere anyway. If they don't get it at your house or her house, they gonna get it somewhere at school or with a friend. So it's like you can't be too strict to where they're not in having some type of spaces. But you also like you do want to have like your standard of what is going to be experienced at home and what this is like, and just explaining and conversating. Again, being very much transparent and talking to these children. I think that's the thing. Communication. Like we feel like we can't talk to them, and if I say what I say, it is what I say, and I'm like, no, explain yourself. And I try to do that a lot. Explain myself, like even when I'm doing something wrong. If I might say, like I might scream, hey, Devea, I'm sorry. I was very frustrated. I shouldn't have screamed. I apologize. I was wrong. Do you accept mommy's apology? Mommy will try to do better moving forward. Because I'm human too. And we are human. We're not going to be these super parents Um, and I'm just saying that for the listeners. It's like go back to that. Give yourself grace. Because you are human also. And just like conscious parenting is again just knowing just being aware of what you're doing and how to move forward, addressing it.
And something Kimberly said, Kimberly, I applaud you. You are raising your kids in different developmental milestones. Like you said, you got adults, you got teens, you got toddlers. Those are some whole different things you have going on. I don't think what people really realize is those different developmental milestones that people grow up, and sometimes everybody don't meet their developmental milestones at the same wavelength. Everybody not doing it at the same time. So to see that you're out here raising 7 children at different ages and different generations, different things that's going on, I commend you for that. Like that's tight to me. I really wanted
Thank
to
you.
go back to what we were talking about in regards to a village, because what happens when the village is broken?
I'm gonna jump in there. So we have a really, really, really good village, and it's a big village. But in that village, there are boundaries. Like there are, all right, I done had to tell Granny such and such, y'all have a certain amount of sugar y'all can intake. So if she baking you pies and cakes, we got a 15-minute limit over there. Cause you can't keep them 2 hours. You can't. I'm coming home and it's cakes and pies. Wait a minute now. Dentistry costs too much. No, they cannot. They cannot come over your house unattended. Or if I know you grew up getting yelled at, called out your name, and you did the same to your kid, we can go. We can go shopping together. We can get that mommy break in like that. But you watching my kid unsupervised, no. The ones that are on the same wavelength, yes, y'all can go over there. You can go play in the back, do whatever you want to do while we wind down. So it is uh, really, really communicating where, I had to say, hey, we only do black Barbies over here. We only do black shows the first 4 or 5 years. That's all we watching. We not watching traditional Disney. So if you not on that wavelength, my kid can't come over there. Like I need you to understand because you gonna undo the programming that I'm trying to build and that confidence and that consciousness that goes behind that and the intentionality behind that. Where we were somewhere and they were like, "Hey, little girl," and she was like, "Oh, that's not my name. This is my name. Don't call me out of my name." And she's like, "Oh, she just rude." And I'm like, "No, you called her out of her name. That's not what you call her." And teaching them those things in conversation. So when you're not with me and you're in school or you're at camp or whatever, you can voice your opinion and say, "Hey, you don't call me that." And if it escalates, okay, you bring that back to mommy and mommy can handle it. But I want them to be as carefree. My goal is to raise carefree Black kids. I want them to be able to go and jump in puddles and not think, "Oh my God, I'm gonna mess my shoes up, I'm gonna get in trouble," or "Oh, I'm gonna get in the water, I'm gonna mess my hair." No, like go swim, go play. Like I want you to be a kid. Like we unfortunately don't really get that luxury to just be free. And
That's what
like how
I
you were
think that's
saying, like your kids are on the couch. Like it is very privileged. And so like my kids are free range, but they know in this house there are boundaries. So this living room is off limits to you. But you can do whatever you want to do in that room as long as you clean it up. This top of the refrigerator, don't touch it. That bottom, that's all yours. You can get your as many snacks as you would like. Water, it's like there are boundaries. And so when we go to other people's houses, I had to like kind of add in that other piece, like, hey, you can't just go and open somebody's refrigerator. That's not decorum. So then we have those decorum conversations of, hey, the kids only watch TV over here. They don't get to play and run and da 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 da. Or, my kids skate at 8 a.m. in the house. I don't care. You know, but you can't go do that at Granny such and such house because she got all glass on the floor. That ain't gonna work. So it's a lot of intentional teaching behind it, and it's a lot of, all right, we know if we go to Papa James' house, y'all just gonna watch football all day. So let me make sure you got your tablet. Let me make sure you got some snacks, because he don't care you allergic to peanut butter. He gonna give you whatever in there. So knowing knowing the folks that's in your village and just moving them accordingly is really, really major. And sometimes you gotta outsource, or I put it into my budget where the girls got a nanny. Like if I just have to, hey, I know she gonna listen.
Like you, sis. Come on.
Listen.
Because I was just about to say we need some nannies and we need some housekeepers up in these black
Listen.
homes, baby. Let's normalize that.
She gonna do whatever you put on this sheet. If you say all they can do is board games and books, that's all she gonna do. And sometimes you need that to be able to go about your day and handle whatever little business that you have, because Granny gonna give her that soda. My baby came home and was like, we went to McDonald's and I had a Sprite, and I'm like, a Sprite? Oh my God, what? I don't drink Sprite. So it's those things like, you know what? Let me just go on and, chunk it up and go and book the nanny so I can do this, and I don't gotta worry about any of those sidebar conversations I would have to circle back and have.
That part though, I really want to get on that. Come on, I see you, Jasmine. Come on.
Just put the nanny's contact information in the chat.
You heard me, sis? No, real talk, y'all. I was just thinking, like, in the black community, for us, we have made that like it's a bad thing. Like we made that so uppity. Like, oh, she thinks because she, baby, sis, I was just manifesting, and oh Lord, thank you. When it gonna come through? Let me get me a nice little nanny. I'm gonna get me a nice little housekeeper, and I'm gonna be able to sit outside in my backyard and sip wine, and I'm gonna be like,
book your nanny. When I say I was worried, and I'm like, let me hurry up, and they probably driving her up the wall when I came in. My kids didn't move, and I'm like, damn, my kids ain't miss me. Like I went back out and came in. I'm like, my kids are sitting here reading a story, like they don't see me. And so I'm like, okay, this is
sometimes they need, and I think that also gives them the space to get away from us. I think kids probably want a break from ourselves, of them or their parents. So
they do.
Yeah, so I think that will also be a way to give granny's word. Back in the day, not no more. I don't know.
These new age grannies ain't doing it. They ain't trying to keep no kids.
Not doing it. They not doing
it. To be outside. These new age grannies is outside. They are not like the grannies we had. That's the difference.
And they're still working.
And they're still working. Like they're still working. They're still doing them essentially. Like they're not retired. No, my grandparents were retired, so they were able to keep us and make sure take us to vacation, Bible school, and revival and all that stuff. Yep. Mm-hmm. Now grannies are still working. That's just the way it is. But like you said, being okay with having a nanny, a housekeeper, being okay with getting a doula. Like it's okay to get those supports. There are supports here in the community that can be provided. And you can get it to where it can be cost efficient.
And that's what I was gonna say. Is like now for me, it's how do we provide? Because okay, we talking about this, and this is really great. Like my goal. I'm telling you, I'm working. Come on, y'all. I'm working on it. But we know there's people that livable can't do that. It's just not a livable, or it's just not going to happen. And so how do we, the community, and this is when we get into like the organizations. We're talking about the companies like all around village come up and say, okay, now we need to start providing these resources, or maybe even elected officials tap in. Do we need some policies in this? What can we do to make sure that we're having that for those people that maybe cannot tap in financially?
Build relationships. I think that's the big thing. I think that's the biggest difference in our generation and the generation before, where when I was growing up, if my mom wasn't watching us on the bus stop, the other mom was. Or, oh, it's winter. We taking turns in who a different parent car. So we not on the bus stop cold. But now we don't have that anymore. Like you don't really know your neighbors. You know, unless they're older, you don't really know your neighbors. You don't have a community with them. Your kids might go outside, but they're playing in your yard. So we got to kind of get back to a space of building relationship where, hey, I see you work nights, I work days. You want me to keep an eye out on your house, or, you know, anything. Your kids get off the same time as my kids. You know, do they go to Boys and Girls Club? Just having those little conversations and building community, because unfortunately it's not there. I don't know what happened, but it's not there. Where the other day I'm like, this little baby outside in the ice and cold, where are his parents? And then the other parent was on the bus stop and they baby was in the car, and I'm like, I don't know if I would have let this baby stand in the cold. Like, hey, call your mama so you can get in the car. Like, we don't have that anymore.
There's no safety, there's no relationships, and then we don't feel safe even doing that, providing that resource or service sometimes to the person down the street, because how are they going to react and respond to us intervening? And that's what we have to change as a community. Stop taking everything that someone says to you offensive, and receive the help. So we're not open, and something shifted. I don't know when or where, but we're just not open to as many things and creating those relationships. And that's where we have to, that has to change.
You know what? I think part of it too is parents cannot be so trusting. And I feel like, conscious parenting is people are starting to be a little more aware of it, I do believe. Because I've met a few parents who knew about it. And I do try, go to my kids' school often, and I talk to other parents and I talk to their teachers. I try to be a little resourceful and help people out and direct them and guide them to some teaching, because honestly, like with my children, I am a little cautious and aware about where my kids go and who I put my kids around, because but at the same time, I know my kids communicate with me and we have a good relationship, and I listen to them, and if they tell me anything, I believe it, because some parents can be in denial and they don't believe in their kids. And I feel like taking your kids to other places can it also, helps them be aware too, because they're practicing awareness with you. So like not having, I feel like when you put your kids in certain places and they are not, you know, being brought up the way that, they are brought up at home, a lot of they can get mistreatment from being in other places. And my kids, they tend to communicate that with me, and I think they take it in pretty good, like is because they understand that other people, you know, are healing and they are hurt and they're projecting their pain on them. So I'm really happy that my kids, they understand those things. I mean, my 8-year-old, he does, and my teenage daughters do. They don't really too much take it personal, but they are being able to teach them about conscious parenting has helped them, practice awareness and let go of their ego and things like that. I even got a grandbaby right now. So I'm excited about that. I'm a grandmother now. But I feel like I was able to let my kids express themselves, do what they want to do, be, whatever they want to be, and not project what I want them to be. Because my mother was very like hard on me and very strict on me. And she was so afraid of me having a child at a young age. And it was just, and honestly, it ended up spilling off on me. What she feared, it projected back on me. And I feel like as parents, we have to be careful of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of getting back to the original question that you asked, Vanna, and Kim, thank you for sharing that, because that's definitely something that I think everyone on the planet could probably speak to some degree. But definitely, with Jacqueline and with Jasmine saying building the relationships, creating the safe space, and I think the biggest thing that Jacqueline harped on is that even in the community and building, that safe extension of, your neighbor and your neighborhood to some degree, looking out for your children and other. I think it comes with, like Jacqueline said, boundaries. To some degree, it's not a close knit, as far as like being an immediate part of the village, but it could be sort of an extension cord. You know what I mean? It could be an extension. My neighbor, when we go out of town, my wife, she kind of looked at me funny when I first brought it up. I'm like, yeah, my neighbor Angie, she's gonna look after the house when we travel. And she's like, that happens. I'm like, yeah, we built the communication. She talks to me. She talks to me. I talk to her. I know her kids. I say hi to them. They out the store. I blow and honk. And so I think, just kind of creating an extension, with boundaries. Hey, I'll, initiating sometimes either. It doesn't have to always just come to you. You can initiate that relationship and that boundary as well. And I think with more communication, like you guys said, with more communication, being upfront, initiating their relationship with a boundary, with the proper boundary, the neighborhood itself could, form into a safe space, building a relationship to the point where, you guys have a kind of safety net on your block in your neighborhood. And that's where it can start as well.
I think that's a valid point. And I think that's what we do lack a lot in our communities, is when we look at the way we're living, it's definitely a lot of selfishness and like it's just my house. And then I think back one thing, the grandparents decade, I can remember, I always say this, is that my grandparents, that everybody around that space knew the deans. Okay. And so I could be all around this corner and I could be on that corner. But for me, unfortunately, my kids don't even leave my little square of my house. Like I don't let them go. Well, first,
Same.
they're old enough, but secondly, I just and there's little kids across the street, and I know there's some kids up up the street a little bit, but I just have not formed that much of a relationship, like you said, with them to like, hey, you can go across the street and play. Their mom's gonna watch them, or maybe I've seen, and I'm like, oh no, you just ain't going over there. So I think is we definitely have to get outside of ourselves and our spaces. But I think that goes back to a lot of other things, home ownership. When you're going to be in that space for a long period of time, you're gonna kind of want to get to know your neighbors because they're going to be there. But if you like popcorning it, you're not even settled enough to really know or figure out what's going on in their neighborhood because you're trying to figure out where I'm gonna go lay another day. So I think it's a lot of underlining things that goes against that grain, but ideally that would be the best for us to do, is like get to really know who's in our communities and on our streets and our blocks.
For sure. I definitely babysit for my friends, and like we switch back and forth if I'm in need. Like if I do have a visit on the weekend, because my husband works weekends, so I don't need it during the week. But like we'll switch off and babysit each other's kids.
Yeah,
we I'm not from here, so my family is in Chicago, but my husband's family does well with babysitting. Again, our friends that we went to college with, our kids are kind of all around the same age, so we kind of tag team and do what we do, and try to be that village, be that support. Is something that you said, it made me remember back when we used to have neighborhood block parties back in Chicago. So I don't know if they do that here, but
your accent just came out.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, like I don't know if they do that here, but in Chicago we have block parties, and those were like the best. Like every summer, every year, you knew that it was gonna be the block party, and Miss Johnson up the street was gonna cook, and it was gonna be a DJ, music, kids was out playing. That's how you saw your neighbors. See, the neighbors come out when it's bad stuff that happened. If the police was outside, I guarantee you,
all of them gonna be
outside. They look, everybody looking. But when it's the good, why don't we come out just to say, hey, how you doing? I'm such and such. I live up the street. Yeah, my kids go, just to be that. It's time for us as a people to get back to that, to where we were before. Like, it was always a good thing to have these neighborhood block parties, to be around the neighborhood. I couldn't wait to go to the neighborhood block party. Couldn't wait. I mean, it was just fun. And seeing all those different people, it's just time to figure out what we have to do as a community to get back to that.
I agree. I think that would be super dope if we could bring something in that space of like each street. every other, month or something, each street, block it off, and let's have a block party so people can get to know their streets and their blocks and their community, because we definitely got to come together. And I feel like once you get to know the people that you're around, less of the crime will happen. More of the village mindset will start setting in, and again, our communities will flourish and thrive. But I also, again, like to say we have to address mental health in that space too, and I think that's what has gotten us to where we are also. Because everybody ain't gonna show up like we sitting here thinking like we have some people, but everybody ain't gonna show up like that. So we definitely have to be mindful of mental health in that space, and that's a whole nother subject, because I think too mental health plays into parenting, right? That's a big play into parenting.
Absolutely. It is the root of parenting. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give the child something that you don't have. So we have to be mindful of checking in, as it relates to your mental health. You guys, I'm going to say this. We talked in the beginning about a handbook. I thought I had the handbook. I'm an early childhood professional. I thought I could do it. Parenting, I got this. Special needs, this is my lane. But when I tell you it has been the opposite of what I expected, I mean, there's great pieces, there's great moments, but parenting the child that has trauma or a child that has genetics that you don't know much about has been difficult. Like, it has been a journey. So mental health is something that I scream and I try to tell people all the time, stop saying you're okay when we know you're not. So taking that moment to say, you know what, like we talked about earlier, I got to tap out. I need to schedule an appointment with my therapist. I need to get you set up with someone that you can talk to. I need a support group. I need the school to understand when you get suspended, it's not because you're a bad kid, or it's not because I've parented you incorrectly. It's just who you are, and we're trying to muddle through these waters. But figuring out and reminding yourself and all those people on your blog, at your job, that we have to check in and we have to get our own mental health under control, because we can't parent if we're mentally unhealthy.
So true, so true.
Oh, gems noted for my.
And I think that's part of that break. Hold on. Oh, okay, yeah. That's part of that break where I have to tell my kids, like, hey, mom need a break. Give me a break. Y'all got several rooms to go into. Please go anywhere. Give me a break. I'll be back. I love y'all. Give me a little break. Let me take a nap. Let me, whatever. So I can be here for y'all, because right now, mommy got to recharge. It was a hard day, whatever, what have you. Give me that break. And so, like one of you guys said, like, your kids are starting to say it to each other too. And my girl say the same thing. She be like, I just need a break from her. And I'm like, y'all done came around to the circle where y'all get it now. Y'all get what I'm saying. And so sometimes I'll have to like cheat code and be like, ooh, here go these crayons for the tub. Like, y'all go live y'all best life in the tub and be in there for 2-3 hours and let me get a break and I'll deal with it later. Because if we aren't full, we can't be there for our kids. We can't process the things that they need us to process.
Yes, for sure. And like being okay with those messes when you have toddlers, like, it goes back to like expectations, and it goes back to like that mom guilt thing, like, and just putting the like all the expectations on your household, on your children, and then you project that to the kids, and it's just not realistic. Like, if you have kids under 10, your house is probably never going to be clean. Like, and just being okay with that, and just making sure that you have realistic expectations. I wanted to kind of talk about, like, what do we do when the toddler or the kid is like yelling back or different things like that. How do you guys handle that? Like, just addressing how do you want them to say things to you, or how do you want them to treat each other?
Well, we have a balance, because my son, because he is like me, sometimes he'll pull me all the way out of character. He'll just pull me out of character. I'll be like, oh, man, who you talking to? And she'll check me. Hey, that's not what needs to go down. That's not what needs to go down. Express to him the boundary that he's crossed. Make sure he understands that he can communicate that better. That way that issue doesn't happen again. Now I also have to check her when it comes to my daughter, even though she's 2. You know, my daughter, she's coming into her own. She's 2 turning 22. So, you know, my daughter being a little bit more
Girls, baby.
being a little bit more of a daddy's girl, I tend to catch her, and Jared don't do that. And I'm like, well, Adrian, you know, she only did this because of that. And then we kind of come to understanding where we kind of balance and hold each other accountable. So for us, you know, we tend, you know, to kind of catch the rock and kind of hold each other accountable and be that balance for each other. So that works for us.
But we also I have been teaching him child development. So he doesn't know about child development. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know anything about that. He didn't go to school for that. I did. So teaching him the development of a child, essentially, like, yes, our children are 2 years apart, but they are 2 totally different kids. They're on 2 totally different wavelengths. They develop way different than other kids that you may see. So emotionally, socially, cognitively, all the domains, like, they just develop differently. So learning those developmental factors and what it looks like, what it is. There's a milestone tracker that I always tell parents to use, is the CDC Milestone Tracker that checks developmental. It gives you literally, it's available right on your smartphone. All you got to do is download the app, baby. It will tell you all about where your child should be developmentally. And if your child is not, what to do. It gives you tips and activities and things that can help and take to your doctor. Because I think what makes parenting so hard is when you don't know. Yep. When you don't know about why my child does this, or why my child isn't doing this, or why does my child do this. Like, yep. Learning the why instead of what.
Good point.
It's Great super point. Important.
Great point.
That's true.
I'm gonna push back real quick. Somebody wanted to say something before I push back? Come on, Kimberly. You wanted to say something?
I was just about to say has been challenging with teenagers, other than my young children, because I have a 16-year-old, and at this time of her life, she is basically finding herself and trying to, like, be her own person and do her own thing. And I'm trying to keep from being so controlling and trying to make her decisions and choices for her. So it's like, just recently she wanted to go out of town with a friend of hers, and my husband was like, no, you know, she don't need to be going out of town. You're not going to be, who's going to be with her? And I'm like, well, she's 16 years old and she's going to have to learn how to get around, how to communicate, how to, you know, be, you know, protective. And, you know, I said she got the awareness of herself. She know she's okay. She know we not far away, because she just went to Branson, Missouri. So I'm like, she's not that far away. So, but I'm, you know, I had to, even though it was kind of hard for me to let her go on her own, with, you know, without me there to watch her, you know, I was like, okay. And I was like, you know what? I try to be positive. And that's one thing I try to instill in my children also as well, to be positive and to try to find the good in things. And I'm like, everything is going to be okay, because sometimes our energy, we can pull that negative energy that can cause a problem that is just really not a problem. So, and I'm getting better with that, because I got a 22-year-old daughter, a 23 son, and it's like me allowing them to branch off and be their own individual it's getting better.
First of all, shout out to you, sis, because you look 23, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You look 23, okay? But no, again, shout out to you, because whew, Lord, I think about right now having toddlers and how I could still somewhat control the situation a little bit. And this is only because, and this is showing up traumas, right? We talked about that, mental health. And I always talk about how, you know, I've had some experiences in my life, and that I'm trying to not let that mold the way I parent. So I am the one to be like, wait a minute, should I wait? And I overthink. But I can only imagine having them at that age, where you're trying to be very much like, okay, you're gonna have to learn, you're gonna have to experience stuff. I can't always hold you back, but also like, no, wait, I want to protect you from this crazy world and these crazy people. But I think it goes back to like we've all been saying, like just having communication, and making sure you have that space. Because I think a lot of times too, teenagers are shut down, and we be like, y'all ain't, y'all. I go back to you a child. You ain't what you worried about? What you got going on? Ain't nothing going on. You ain't got nothing to worry about. You ain't paying no bills. You ain't finding like we've heard them things, right? And I still think like these children, especially now in COVID, come on now, the changes that they've had to adjust through, woo, is mind blowing. Sometimes for me, going to school was a break from home. So imagine having to still stay in the same space you may be ready to get away from and just not having no outlet to go. I just mentally think about these children and at that age. And I think it goes back to again therapy. Educators, help me out. When is it too early, or is it not too early to start incorporating therapy for our children?
It's never too early. I don't think it's never too early, especially if you. A lot of the time, I step back and I look at my kids and I'm just like observe them, and I go into educator mode, and I'm just like, okay, is this just their personality, or is this a COVID kink? Or like I have to go through this checklist, and I'm like, okay, let me reach out and see if your teacher is seeing the same thing I'm seeing. And it's educator space. I'm like, parents, the bulk of y'all insurance is free. If you got Medicaid, it's free. Take advantage, even if you don't know if your kid has a diagnosis or they just need 30 minutes a week or whatever. Take them. You don't have to pay for it. Take them. If they need play therapy or OT, or if they need speech therapy, it's free. Because at a certain point,
I'm glad
the
you said
rules gonna
therapies. Come on. I mean, all of them. I think that is very much valid. I think, and that's another reason why our children are behind, is because we're not wanting to tap into these resources of therapies that they're offering. OT. I mean, there's so many different resources around things that can help development. And we're like, I ain't gonna do that because it doesn't mean something wrong with my baby. The IEPs, all of those things. People, something wrong with my baby, and I want people to feel. No, F that. Get your baby those resources. Get your baby that extra assistance. Come on, Jacqueline. I'm sorry to tap that in.
We have to remove the stigma associated with mental health, or with just all of the things of support. So just because my child needs additional support doesn't mean that there's something wrong. And early intervention is a true thing, because if we intervene early, we may not have to intervene always. And I think sometimes we get stuck, or parents, not we, because I think we are all kind of making like conscious decisions around our parenting because we're here today. But sometimes parents get stuck in this understanding or lack thereof of what children really need to thrive. And for me and my son, the therapy started at 4, for several reasons. Being kicked out of, or put this close to being kicked out of childcare centers, realizing that maybe kindergarten, just because he's 5, it's not the right step for him right now. So all of these collective decisions meant that we definitely have to sit down, and I need to make sure that I'm tapping into all of the things, all of his potential. So that's where we have been, and we're going to continue to be there until we don't need it anymore.
Again, being okay with that. Like, please understand that just because your child needs help, that does not mean it's a reflection on you as the parent. It doesn't. That, and I think that's what parents get stuck at. They're looking at like, oh well,
True.
If they say my son needs speech therapy, they gonna think I didn't talk to them. No, that's not what that means. Your child just needs additional support. It's okay to have support, just like you need support. Like, it's okay. Like, I feel like as an educator, that's one of the biggest things is like pushing, like, and then people say, oh, you just pushing the IEP. No, it's not pushing an IEP, or and with your year 0 to 5, it's an IFSP, an individual family support plan. Literally, This is the family. This is the goals that we're working on. And guess what? If we intervene early, by the time it's time for them to go to kindergarten, they may don't need this support anymore.
And to kind of tap into that, I mean, for people who may think or maybe judgmental, even if you don't have, special needs or anything like that. I mean, I'm not an educator, but I'll be a little vulnerable in this situation where I think, we as a Black community need to normalize therapy in general.
Yes.
As recent as me being in my 30s, my father and I had to go to, therapy. Our relationship had got to a place of uncomfortability. And, it wasn't until we sat down and just talked to someone, we don't have, any, IEPs or anything like that, but just sitting down and talking to someone and just communicating, it got our relationship closer. You know what I mean? And when I tell my friends that, they're like, you guys went to therapy? I'm like, yeah, dude, you should try it. Like, I mean, even you don't necessarily have to have something in the background, but just normalize, going to therapy. It's okay to just talk and express. That's fine, especially as Black men. That's fine.
Yeah. And using your resources in your schools. Like the schools have school counselors. They have groups like Sister Keepers. I Define Me. They're all around teaching young women about themselves and how to what you say, Jacqueline?
No, I Define Me, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, like you having those different resources that are available. Like you have to and get your kids in things. Like we can't just be having them at home on their screen, on their computer, on their game. Like, and then we like, well, they not talking. I wouldn't talk to you either. You're not talking to me. Like, I don't understand. Like being like using the resources that you have. Let's get them out there. You have to push. You have to be your advocate for your child.
You have to be that part.
Yeah. And then like being your biggest advocate, where we also have to remove ego out of that, where if somebody does suggest, hey, we think they may need a little help with X, Y, and Z, not automatically going on that defense, but actually listening. And I'm a big, let's push it. Okay, what's your evidence? Let me observe. Let me come in the classroom and observe. I've never seen that. Like, it's okay to question those suggestions. And if you see it and you're like, okay, it is a little different, go ahead and get those follow-ups or whatever, where a lot of the school counselors, I know it switched to digital, but maybe like before COVID, there used to be a packet like about this thick, and it had everything in there from home resources, if you were homeless, food resources, if you needed anything under the sun, it was in there. But people would not come into that office. You need clothes, you need anything, and I'm like, it's literally free. If you had LGBT kids, here's all these organizations that's local. And now it's a digital resource. I'm gonna try to pull it and put it in the comments, but now it's a digital resource. And I'm like, that's something people actually needed, but there was that stigma of actually coming into this counselor office and asking for help. So we gotta stop ourselves from pushing ourselves to better and our kids to being in a better place because we don't want to ask for help or we don't want to follow up. Where, sometimes little Johnny not just acting up because he want to act up. Sometimes he doesn't know how to self-regulate, and he need this little hour a week to teach him them skills to where next year he can stay in the classroom 100% of the time versus 80% of the time. So, and just taking that stigma away from it.
And I also, because y'all know I said I wanted to push back earlier, but I don't think I was trying to push back on is, and I'm going to just say this, is making sure that we have these spaces culturally. That is my biggest thing. I'm with y'all on these resources. I'm with y'all on tapping in to the resources, but I'm also with making sure they're culturally available too. Because we know I think this is probably what has happened over generation is that we've had our grandparents maybe had bad experiences with these things. And so they weren't going to tap in. They like, oh no, we ain't dealing with that. You know how they say that's white folk stuff. Therapy is white folk stuff because they only seen white people doing it, right? So I think it's just making sure we're normalizing that they are. Shout out to Hood Talks podcast, but shout out to me in my space. I am trying to really uplift that we can tap into these resources and we have the people that's doing the work. And so shout out to y'all, y'all educators, and all of y'all in y'all respective places, for showing up and being in this space with me. I want to get ready to close out, and I want to give you all the space if you want to, again, to talk about what you all do, how people can reach out to you all, and maybe give out one suggestion, advice, or something that you can give to someone who's thinking about conscious parenting. And we'll go with Adrian and Antoine. We'll let you start it off.
My advice, personally, would be normalize therapy. Whether you have a background for special needs or not, normalize communication and go on to have someone listen. You can reach out to me at stl_god.com and on Instagram. And also, I kind of made shirts for this podcast, for today's show. The shirt Black Dads Matter, countryclubclothingline.com is where you can get the shirts. We also have for the moms as well. 90s mom. So Country Club Clothing Line is where you can kind of take a look at the shirts. But that's my advice.
You can always follow me on social media on Instagram at coach_EMUP_ACE. I'll also put it in the chat for everyone there. And then I'm like I said, we're the owner of ABC Educational Consulting LLC. So I provide educational curriculum to organizations looking to go into the schools. So it starts there. If you want to take your mission and you want to teach what our children about things that you want them to know, then hit me up. We can create a curriculum and we can go out and push it into these schools. I'm also a life coach. So I provide coaching, coach them up with ACE. So get your ACE, let's ACE your life by your standards. But my most endeared thing is being a doula. Baby, I'm helping these women help and bring babies into this world. I'm coaching, I'm there with you. I'm in the trenches with you from the time you have the baby to your 4th trimester to teach you different things and thoughts to help you, support you, to be a part of your village.
Give me a high five.
Hey. Look, doulas and midwives, the Hood Talk. Yes, baby, we talk doulas and midwives. Yes. All right, Miss Jasmine, thank you for joining us. Come on, tell us.
Okay. So I guess my number one piece of advice to anyone is to really think about your expectations for your children. Sometimes our expectations are just way too high and they're not developmentally appropriate. So if you ever have questions around what my child should be doing, Google is a great resource. Developmentally, where is my child? You don't have to have a fancy website. You don't have to have a special class. But if you are interested in learning more on the credit-based side, come see me at St. Louis Community College, where we are teaching individuals, communities around what children need to grow and thrive. If you're interested in becoming an early childhood educator, come see me at the college. I know college isn't for everyone, but it is an opportunity just to get your foot in the door to even see if this is something that truly interests you. The world cannot go forward or continue to roll without early childhood educators, because if our babies don't have nowhere to go, we don't go to work. So that's one side of that. If you're interested in learning more about opening a child care center, if you want to know more about directorship of a quality child care program, you can come see me at I Encourage Early Ed Professionals. We're found on Facebook. Or if you just want to learn more about being a parent, contact me. You can find me on Facebook. I'm just Jasmine Marshall. And we're learning about just this idea of being comfortable with your child's diagnosis or disability. Thank you so much for having me too. Pleased to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Come on, Miss Kimberly. You muted.
Meeting you guys. If you want to contact me at KimberlyWarren96@yahoo.com. You can always reach me also at Facebook. My name is Kimberly Warren, and I'm open to talk to parents about conscious parenting and how to meditation. I'm really heavy on the mindful meditation, and I also do have an event space where I throw parties and meetings like that often. And I can also, help people that's up and coming with begin starting their LLC and businesses and things like that. I also know I'm diving a little bit more into trucking and freight work and cars, and dispatching. So I know a lot about that as well. So you can contact me.
I'm sorry. Thank you for joining us also. Come on, Miss Jacqueline.
All right. So my biggest tip would be to really observe your kid. Really know your kid. Really build that bond with your kid and know um how we have love languages, they have love languages. So, all of that, just really study and know your kid because some things maybe they're they wavelength, you know. My youngest, she is full of disdain and that's just her personality. And that's my little Wednesday Adams, and I've accepted it. So, you just have to know your kid. But I can say if you guys want to get a hold of me, you can look on my Facebook at CE Reflections Inc. We have a literacy program coming up for St. Louis City and St. Louis County students completely free. It is going to link them and their families with Black books by Black authors and the literacy tips for comprehension and to boost their scores up. So it'll be launching in April. So we are right around the corner. There's a link on there for an intake form, and it's completely free from our authors to our families to all of that. So, yep, that's the easiest way to get a hold of me right now. And thank you.
All right. Miss Jenny, come on, girl.
Jeannie. Like I said, I work for the school district, Ferguson Florissant, as a parent educator. I forgot to mention I am a peer counselor for breastfeeding. I'm a big breastfeeding advocate. So like I'm not LC, but if you ever need, breastfeeding advice, I help admin for a Black breastfeeding group. It's called Breastfeeding Uncensored, Black Breastfeeding Moms Uncensored. And it's very helpful, to have that community because a lot of people don't see breastfeeding and don't see Black people breastfeeding. So I was honored to become an admin of that group about a year and a half ago. So it's been a pleasure. Also, like the one tip, like as far as conscious parenting, just don't be the parent that says uh like threaten the kids or like challenge the kid. If you're gonna make it a choice, make it like give two equally okay choices. That's my go-to. Make sure if you're gonna give the choice and let them have their autonomy, make sure it's not like a trick question or anything. Try to be your kid's ally. So two equally okay choices, and really take your ego out of it and monitor those triggers. If you're feeling triggered, like another thing with me is like sensory. I have to put in headphones sometimes because my kids are just so loud. So just be aware of your triggers and take your ego out of it.
All right, y'all. Well, there y'all go. Another great conversation. I appreciate the guests that joined me today. We got so much more coming up the rest of this month, and of course the rest of our season. Season is till August, but we do have 5 weeks in this month, so I am taking full advantage, and I will be dropping a show every week for the rest of the Thursdays of this week. Okay, so that means the Hood Hills. Shout out to Candace Cox. We got Candace Cox coming to the Hood Talks podcast to sit down with us to talk about traumas. Yes, honey, traumas. Yes, and we got the Hood Needs segment with Shira. It's sisters helping each other reach higher heights. A great organization that I cannot wait to highlight and show out. Okay, we got another great storytelling segment. Man, when I say this brother got a story, he got a story. So that will be dropping. Make sure y'all are following us on the podcast platforms. You know, that's Google, Apple, all that. That's where the storytelling segments only are available. And then kicking it for a cause. Yes, one of my faves. Yes, Kicking It For a Cause will be the last Thursday of this month. But just know, hint, hint, Kicking It For a Cause will be going live. Woo, 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 woo. We will be going in person starting in May. We are planning that right now. A free event with music, games, fun. But you know how we do. We got to have this community conversation going too. So Kicking It For a Cause is going live. Wait on it. We coming this summer for y'all. And man, when I say we got so many more conversations to be had for the rest of this season, go, y'all. Y'all want to come join me at the mic to have some tough conversations? I got them. We talking community policing in August. We talking Black women. I am not your enemy. We are talking so much. Okay, so go ahead. I'm going to put it in the chat. Make sure y'all go sign up because we need the live panel guests to come finish these conversations for the rest of our season. And, you know, I would love to have the community to the mic. All right. Well, that's what's happening. Appreciate everybody tapping in and tuning in. On that note, y'all, we out. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page and also follow us on all our social medias. And you can find all of that information